Welcome to our tutorial on getting started with Dexterity Programming. Dexterity is a program that is on the GP DVD under the Tools area. If you drill down on Tools and Dex and Setup.exe, we'll install Dexterity onto your machine. One of the other things that you can install is the source code control service under the Dex DSCCS subfolder. You want to make sure that you have set up a folder to host all of your source code projects. So if you look on your workstation, a typical scenario might be to have a shared network folder somewhere. And in our case, we've set up a shared backups and then Dex projects. You can see that there's a dedicated folder under the Dex projects called source code files. And this is where you'll want to set up the DSCCS, the Dexterity Source Code Control Server, to default to that folder for all of your projects. Then you'll want to create project folders. So for each project, you want to set up a folder for each of those projects. Additionally, when you start doing Dexterity programming, what you want to do is get a clean install of Dynamics GP. Take the Dynamics dictionary file from that clean install right after you've installed Dynamics GP. You'll see a dynamics.dic file that is approximately 90 meg. You'll want to copy that into a special folder that you can find again. And what we did in our case, we just created a folder way back when it used to be Great Plains software for all the different versions of Dexterity. You'll want to store a separate dictionaries folder under each one so you can have Dynamics dictionaries for each version of Dexterity. This is important when we go to set up a new project because we'll be utilizing this as we create the new project folder. So next, like we said, we establish a source code folder and we assign that during the initial configuration. Then we assign a folder to store our brand new dictionaries off of a GP install. So we've got the Dynamics GP dictionary. And now we're going to talk about folders by version. We just talked about how you can set up dex.ini files and macro files for creating a new project. So let's do that next. So let's create a new project. We're going to go to our projects folder, which we have all of our projects here under different versions. This is 2013, this is 2010, and this is 10. So in Dex here, we're going to come in and we're going to create a new folder right in this area. And we're going to call this Demo. And so now we have that folder. The first thing we want to do is go back up to where we had those dictionaries, make a copy of this, and put that inside of our folder for the demo. Paste that there. And once it's pasted, we're going to rename it Demo. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a couple of files from a previous project. And if you need to sort of have a starter version of these, you can contact us at www.icansoftware.com and we can get those to you. Or you can manually edit these files as well. But we're going to take two things. One is a recorded macro for compiling Dexterity customization that we're going to copy and then edit over on the other side. So we'll go back up to our demo, paste those there. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to rename this one to Demo. And then we're going to edit both of these to reference this dictionary at this location. So we're going to come in here and we're going to find the path The path for the original dictionary is pointed to our source dictionaries that we have, the ones saved from the GP installation. We're going to create our last project is going to be called demo, and we'll say 2013. And we are going to come down here and look to see what else we need to change. So on this, we need to change this to demo and this to demo. And that should be it. So we'll do a file save there. And then our macro file, we're going to open that with Notepad as well. And again, where the paths are saying where we copied from, you just want to replace that with a new project name and dictionary. So we make these changes, and see wherever else there's a path. And this is what's used when we want to automate the compilation of the customization. So we'll say demo, build 1. We can say demo 12, B1. And demo. And 12 build 1 is fine. That looks good. File save. And now we've created a new project here. Now we want a shortcut to be able to open this project. So what we do is we normally have a folder called Dex Shortcuts. And what you can do is just take a copy of one. So make a copy. And then right-click and paste. And now we should have a copy of that we can rename here. So we'll call this demo. And when we right-click on demo and go to properties, we can change the path in here to be demo, and then point to that dex.ini file. Let's make sure we've got Great Plains there. And there's 2 executables in here. Just look and see that nothing else needs to be edited. That looks fine. All right, so now if I double click on this, it should open up and point to the dictionary for demo. You can see up at the top it's got demo.dic. It's got the repository and the source code control system, because when we opened it up with a reference to the source code, it went ahead and created the folder for us in the source code area. So if we look at our source code files, there should be a demo. Maybe not until we save something. It could be. So once we save something, it'll actually store stuff there. All right, but this is our demo environment. You can see all of the tables of Dynamics GP, all of the forms of Dynamics GP, all the windows, reports, and scripts are where we can write script procedures or dexterity-based programming scripts that can be fired by events. Now, we are now going to create a window. So in its basic form, we can have a window that does something. Now, it could be that it's putting data into a table. It could be that it's just popping up a hello world form. We also typically want to create a work set when we're working in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is define a work set. And we'll call this work set Demo 2013. Click OK. And now when we're in that Demo 2013 work set, we can add things like procedures, tables, forms, things of that nature. So in here, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to say, okay, my form name is going to be demo underscore hello world. And my series, I'll just put into, we'll put it into third party. And I'm going to create a window in here. And so by pushing the new window button, it'll pop up and give me a default window. And I can see the properties over here for the window. Now my name of the window, if I double click on there, it'll pop up into the area. I'm going to make this just hello world so it matches the ending of the form name. Because we can have more than one window for a form. And then the heading at the top of the window will make hello world Dex 2013. All right, now we may want to have a button. So we can look around on the items here until we find a button. There's a push button right there. When I push that on the control panel here, then I can create a button here. And I can give it heading information. I believe there's a tooltip. Oh, I know what I did wrong. So when you create these buttons, you really want to create a local field and define it as a button. In this case, the push button 0 that we started to create, I need to give the text here. So I'm going to say here, push for hello world, and then drag that onto the form. So we'll drag that onto the form. And then when I double click on the form, I can make it pop up a message. So in this case, I'll just say warning, hello world, and end my line with a semicolon. I compile that, it looks good. And I might want to give it some heading here. So I'll say, click over here and say hello world Dex 2013. And now I can make this bold, and I can make it bigger with the font. Change the font around. And move that over. So there's my initial form. Save that. Now one thing I can do in here is I can preview it. So under layout, preview. It doesn't do anything in the preview when I push it, but it lets me see the look and feel for this. I can shrink the size of the window if I want. Make sure that the field is within the window. And save that. And click Save. And click OK. And this is a very basic program we've just created that created a form with something happens when I press the button. So we can close this. And now, since we have that macro recorded, we can actually go to our utilities. And we can play the macro. So we'll go play, and we'll browse to our demo. And we can look at the macro. If we needed to edit it, we could open it up with Notepad prior to running it, make sure everything looks good. If we know it's good, we can just double click. This will run through and do the macro. Now one thing I did notice on it, and so I'm going to run this again actually. I want to update the product ID because I'm running something that has a similar product ID. So down at the bottom in here, I want to make this a different number. So I'll make this 9101 and 9101, 9101. So this is the main dictionary here, and then the paths are going to be for the forms dictionary and the reports dictionary in case anybody makes modifications to either forms or reports that are defined within the product that you've just created. So I'll file save, close that. Oh, one other thing. Here, probably should say demo instead of GPUG 12. So let's make that demo. File save. All right, and then let's run that. So that's compiled to a chunk file. Now we're going to go up to our project folder where that was. And we can see some of the files. As soon as we start working in the dictionary, we get some of these files that are being created by Dexterity. The chunk that we just created by that compile, you can see if we sort by date modified, there's the chunk. And if I want to send that to somebody, I'd first send it to a zip file because chunk files can get damaged when they're being transferred. So you generally want to transfer things, particularly across networks, with a zip file or the chunk file, just an outer layer covering essentially to protect the chunk file. Since I'm not transferring it across the network, I can drop this into my GP folder. And then I can start Dynamics GP. Added the code. I'm going to log in. And while we wait for Dynamics GP to initialize, should be here any minute. Now, we didn't do any coding of any menu options at this point, but we can still grab that window and put it up with a shortcut over in our shortcut bar. So we're going to do an add window, and we're going to go find our demo 2013, which you can see is right there, under third party, because we told it the form was a third party form. And then we can add this to our shortcuts bar and click on it. And you can see that we now have our Hello World customization. We can push that and we get our Hello World. Now, this is just the beginning. This is getting started. But this is where you now can launch from once you've kind of gotten an idea of how to get started with Dynamics. One of the things you can do as you go forward, let's go back to our Dexterity. And we are going to go back to our folder for our shortcuts. Which are right there. And we'll go back into our demo. Now, there are other things we can do. In terms of creating records, we could have entries. We could have a table that those entries go into. If we want to define information, we can do that. The help file, there are online manuals which will give you, once you've installed Dexterity, it'll give you your Programmer's Guide Volume 1 and 2, as well as the integration guide for working in Dexterity projects that are interacting with GP data. But the contents folder is here as well, and this will get you started in terms of looking at the basics of building an application. Lots of information here. This is going to be the end of our session today. This is how you get started, and from here it's creating tables, it's creating procedures. There are startup procedures that will fire when you create a script called startup. Then everything you define in that script will fire off at the time that you start the program. So if in here you want to add a new procedure, you can call the name whatever you want, but the one that is called startup will automatically run. So you can create a startup folder. This is where we typically register triggers. So in defining different events, we'll want to have something that registers those triggers upon those events. And this is where we can do this. There's other things we can do on this too as well, in terms of installing tables, if you're logged in, if logged in as SA, other types of things you can do, registering or creating shortcuts and menu structures. You can comment with these symbols here. So these are commented out, but when we compile, it'll still stay there, even though there's no real code happening there yet. Now we could have put, warning, welcome to the GP or the Dexterity 2013 Getting Started demo. We'll do a compile there, and then we'll save that. Now we can check in. Right now you can see, let me add that script to our work set. If you look at your work set now, you've got a form and you've got a procedure, and we can check those in. If we go to Explorer and Source Control, we can say check in that source control, and everything that's in here that needs to be added in can be added in. So I'll insert all. Give a comment. Now if I check it out, it's checked out, and then when I want to check it back in, check it in. Likewise on the form, check it out, do whatever I want to do, and then check it in. And I can check in mass, or I can check in one at a time. All right, let's recompile that again. We'll go macro play. It remembers what my last macro was, so it says, okay, it's in the demo folder, it's the demo.mac, recompile. If I'd made significant changes, I'd change the build to build 2 on the macro file before I ran it. Now we can start, we can copy that file. So we'll go back up to our demo folder, copy this again, copy, up to GP12, paste. And then we're going to start Dynamics GP again. Say yes. And you can see on startup now, it's firing that startup procedure, which is then popping up the warning message. Now I can log in here. And wait again. Today we've shown you how to get started, how to install Dynamics, Dexterity, how to install the built-in source control service that runs on a particular machine. It could be running on a server or on the workstation that you're doing development on. You can also use Visual SourceSafe as your source code control system if you want to use that, rather than installing the one that is being utilized here in this particular demo. But for the most simplistic getting started, installing it on a single machine, we are not sharing access to the source code control. You can run it on a single machine with the DSCCS really easily. So we're running again. You can see our hello world form is still there. Push for hello, hello world. And with that, we're going to close this session, and we will have future sessions on table operations and forms that allow you to enter data or to view data that's been entered. That's all for right now.